Prairie Bend, written by Alicia Reed. Episode 2. Prairie Bend announced the meeting on a Wednesday morning. Not with urgency, not with alarm, just a neat notice taped to the glass door of City Hall, and a line added to the church bulletin like it had always belonged there. Community Land Use Meeting, Thursday. Danielle Porter saw it by accident. She had walked into town to pick up copies from the printer, survey maps that Mr. Lowe wanted them to review, when she noticed Carla Simmons standing outside City Hall, smiling too easily at passers-by. Carla's smile widened when she saw Danielle. "Well," she said brightly, "that did not take long." Danielle read the notice again. "This meeting was not mentioned to me." Carla clasped her hands. "It is just informational. Transparency is important, don't ye think?" Danielle met her gaze. "Only when it is honest." Carla's smile thinned, just slightly. "You will be there, of course." It was not a question. Reggie was already waiting in the truck when Danielle got back. "They posted it," she said, climbing in. "The meeting," Reggie nodded. "I heard." "From who?" "Everybody," he said. "That is the point." Danielle leaned back in her seat and stared at the windshield. "They want witnesses." "Yes," Reggie agreed. "They want pressure." She exhaled. "Then they will have to hear me." Reggie turned to her, studying her face. "You sure?" Danielle looked at him. "They are already speaking about me. I would rather speak for myself." He nodded once. "And we do this prepared." City Hall filled slowly that evening. Not packed, not empty, just enough people to make the room feel smaller than it was. Folding chairs lined the walls. The air buzzed with polite conversation and restrained curiosity. Danielle entered with Reggie beside her and felt the shift immediately. Heads turned, conversations softened, eyes tracked her progress across the room. This was not about zoning. This was about permission. They took seats near the front. Mr. Lowe sat a few rows back, folder balanced on his knee. Carla Simmons stood near the side, whispering to Mrs. Caldwell and nodding like she was taking notes. The city manager cleared her throat and called the meeting to order. "We are here to discuss land use considerations for Parcel 17, she began, voice even. "As many of you know, the property has come under renewed interest." Danielle's jaw tightened. Interest was such a polite word. A man Danielle did not recognize stood and spoke first, measured, friendly. "We just want what is best for Prairie Bend," he said. "Development brings opportunity." Murmurs of agreement followed. Danielle listened, hands folded in her lap, pulse steady. Another voice. Then another. Jobs. Growth. Progress. No one mentioned ownership. When the city manager finally glanced in Danielle's direction, her tone shifted. "Miss Porter," she said, "would you like to speak?" The room went quiet. Danielle stood. She did not rush. She did not apologize. She did not smile. "Yes," she said simply. She turned slightly, enough to address the room without turning her back on the officials. "My grandmother did not inherit that land," Danielle began. "She protected it." Heads lifted. "She paid taxes when others could not. She refused offers when others folded. She understood that land is more than acreage. Kedir's memory." Someone shifted uncomfortably. "I am not against progress," Danielle continued, "but I am against erasure." Reggie's presence at her side felt solid, grounding. "I own Parcel 17, Danielle said. "Legally, intentionally, and I am managing it." A murmur rippled through the room. "This meeting was not called to ask my consent," she went on calmly. "It was called to test my resolve." Carla's lips pressed together. Danielle met her gaze briefly, then returned her attention to the room. "Will not sell out of pressure. I will not be spoken for, and I will not apologize for choosing stewardship over convenience." Silence followed. Then a single clap echoed from the back of the room. One clap became two. Not loud, not overwhelming, but present. The city manager cleared her throat again. "Thank you, Miss Porter." Danielle sat. Reggie leaned toward her, voice low. You did exactly what you needed to do. She did not respond. Her hands trembled slightly now that the moment had passed. The meeting wrapped up quickly after that. No decisions made, no resolutions reached, but something had shifted. Outside, night had settled over Prairie Bend. The parking lot lights cast long shadows, stretching people into shapes that felt larger than they were. Carla approached them near the steps. "That was unexpected," she said. Danielle held her gaze. "So was this meeting." Carla smiled thinly. "Prairie Bend does not like surprises." Danielle nodded. "Neither do I." Carla walked away without another word. Reggie and Danielle stood for a moment, listening to the hum of crickets and distant traffic. "A will push harder now," Reggie said. "I know," Danielle replied. "You did not leave them room to pretend. And Nussa best the point." Reggie studied her, something like admiration softening his expression. "You did not come back quietly." Danielle let out a breath. "I do not know how to anymore." Reggie's voice was gentle. "Good." They walked to the truck together, the town watching them from a distance now, not measuring, not testing, assessing. Danielle glanced back at City Hall once before climbing in. Prairie Bend had drawn the line in public. So had she, and tomorrow, the cost of staying, would rise again. The drive back from City Hall was quiet, not the kind of quiet that begged to be filled, but the kind that asked to be respected. Danielle rested her head against the passenger window, watching Prairie Bend slip by under streetlights that made everything look softer than it really was. "You okay?" Reggie asked after a while. Danielle nodded. "I think so." "That did not look easy." "It was not," she said. "But it was necessary." Reggie glanced at her, then back at the road. "You did not flinch." "I was terrified," she admitted. "I just did not let them see it." He smiled faintly. "They never do." They pulled into Dennis's driveway, the house dark and quiet. Denise had already gone to bed. She believed in rest the way some people believed in prayer. Danielle did not move to get out of the truck right away. Reggie waited. "That room," Danielle said finally. It felt smaller than it should have. Public rooms always do, when you are telling the truth. She looked at him. "You stayed close." "I was not going anywhere." The words lingered longer than they should have. Danielle opened the door and stepped out, the night air cool against her skin. Reggie followed her up the porch steps, stopping just short of the door, like he was not sure where the boundary was. "Do you want me to walk you in?" he asked. Danielle hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Inside, the house creaked softly, settling around them. Danielle set her purse down and leaned against the counter, exhaustion catching up with her all at once. "I did not realize how loud it has been," she said quietly. Reggie stayed a respectful distance away. "Prairie Bend makes noise without raising its voice." Danielle laughed softly. "That might be the truest thing you have said yet." He smiled, but it faded as he watched her shoulders sag. "Sit down." She did, perching on the edge of a kitchen chair, hands clasped together like she was holding herself in place. "I keep thinking," she said, "that if I stay still long enough, it will pass." Reggie shook his head. "It will not." "No," Danielle agreed. "It will not." Silence stretched between them, thick but not uncomfortable. A clock on the wall ticked steadily, grounding the moment. "Ah, wanted to say something back there," Danielle said. "At the end of the meeting." Reggie's brow lifted slightly. "What stopped you?" "I did not trust my voice," she admitted. "It felt full." He nodded. "Sometimes silence says it better." She looked up at him then. "Does it?" "Yes," he said simply. "Especially when the wrong people are listening." Danielle exhaled and leaned back in her chair. "I do not know how to do this without hardening." Reggie stepped closer, not touching, just near enough that she could feel his presence like warmth. "You do not have to harden. You just have to be clear." She studied his face. "You make it sound simple." "It is not," he said. "It's just honest." Danielle closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again. "When I left, I thought distance would quiet everything. And did it? No, she said softly. It just delayed it. Reggie did not respond right away. When he did, his voice was low. I wondered sometimes if you would come back louder. She smiled faintly. I did not plan to. But you did. Another stretch of silence followed, this one thinner, more charged. Janelle stood and walked toward the sink, turning on the faucet just to hear something move. Reggie watched her, hands resting loosely at his sides. I do not want this to turn into something it cannot be, she said, back still turned to him. Reggie understood what she meant. I will not rush you, he said. I will not assume. And I will not use this moment against you later. She turned to face him. That is a promise? Yes. Danielle searched his face, looking for cracks, for old habits, for expectation. She did not find them. Then stay, she said quietly. Rudy's breath caught, just slightly. Here? Yes, she said. Just for a little while. He nodded once. Okay. They moved to the living room, sitting on opposite ends of the couch, the space between them intentional but fragile. The television stayed off. The room stayed dim. I do not remember the last time I let myself be this still, Danielle said. Reggie leaned back, eyes on the ceiling. Still is where the truth shows up. She smiled. You sound like my grandmother. He smiled too. She taught me a lot. Daniel's chest is hurt. She trusted you. Yes, and I did not. Reggie turned to look at her. You did not have to? But maybe I should have, she said. Reggie did not answer. He let the words settle, unchallenged. The clock ticked again. Danielle rested her head against the back of the couch and closed her eyes. If this gets harder. It will, he said gently. Promise me something. Promise, you will not disappear, she said. Even if you need space. Reggie met her gaze. I will not disappear. And I will not run, Danielle added. Not this time. He nodded. That is all I need to know. They sat there, the quiet wrapping around them, not as pressure, but as shelter. Outside, Prairie Bend held its breath. Inside, Danielle felt something shift, not forward, not backward. Deeper. And for the first time since she returned, the silence did not feel like absence. It felt like choice. The silence did not break all at once. It loosened. Reggie left just after midnight, stepping out into the dark with the same care he would used coming in. No lingering. No promises spoken aloud. Just a look that said I am still here and a door that closed without finality. Danielle slept deeply for the first time since she returned. Morning arrived gently. Sunlight spilling across the kitchen floor, the smell of coffee already in the air. Denise stood at the counter, humming softly, her movements unhurried. You look rested, Denise said, without turning around. Yes, I am. Danielle replied, surprised by the truth of it. Denise glanced over her shoulder, eyes sharp but warm. Did Reggie leave already? Danielle smiled faintly. Yes. Good, Denise said. That means you trusted yourself, not the moment. Danielle poured coffee and leaned against the counter. Yes, ma'am. You always seem to know. I always see, Denise corrected. That man has always been steady. It is the town I do not trust. As if summoned by the thought, Danielle's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Miss Porter, this is Wade Ellison. I represent Prairie Bend Development Group. I would like to speak with you about a proposal. Danielle stared at the screen. The offer had arrived. They met at the coffee shop just after noon. Wade Ellison stood when she approached the table, smile polished, handshake firm, but careful, like he already knew the boundaries she would insist on. Miss Porter, he said warmly, thank you for agreeing to meet. Danielle took her seat. I am listening. He nodded appreciatively. Direct. I like that. He slid a folder across the table, not rushed, not aggressive. We believe Parcel 17 could be transformative for Prairie Bend, Wade said. Jobs, infrastructure, long-term stability. Danielle opened the folder slowly. Numbers stared back at her. Generous ones. This is more than your last offer. she said. Yes, Wade replied smoothly. The situation has evolved. Danielle closed the folder. You mean I spoke publicly? Wade smiled. I mean you clarified your position. That has value. She studied him. And the easement? Wade's eyes flickered. Just a fraction. Manageable. Danielle leaned back in her chair. That is vague. It is honest, he countered. Nothing here is without friction. She appreciated that more than she wanted to. Why now? Danielle asked. Wade folded his hands. Because resistance is expensive. For everyone. Danielle held his gaze. Including me. Especially you, he said gently. This offer gives you options. Freedom. The word lingered. Freedom had always tempted her. 30 days, Wade added. That is our window. After that, things get more complicated. Danielle nodded once. I will consider it. Wade stood. I hope you do. Prairie Bend does not often get chances like this. Danielle rose as well. Neither do I. She did not call Reggie right away. Instead, she walked. The land was quiet when she reached it, wind moving through tall grass like breath. Danielle stood near the fence line and stared out across the acres her grandmother had guarded so fiercely. The offer echoed in her mind. Security, ease, escape. She could leave again. This time, with something to show for it. Reggie's voice surfaced, bidden. You do not need permission. Her phone buzzed. Reggie, you okay? Danielle typed slowly. Danielle, I got an offer. The response came quickly. Reggie, I figured. She hesitated, then added, Danielle, it is good. There was a pause, this time. Reggie, do you want to talk about it? They now looked out over the land again, the way it held its ground without apology. Danielle, not yet. She needed to sit with it first. That evening, she laid the folder on the kitchen table and stared at it like it might speak. Denise poured tea and joined her without comment. That is the offer, Denise said finally. Yes. Denise sipped her tea. Does it solve the problem? It solves a problem, Danielle replied. Just not the one I care about. Denise nodded. Then it is. A test. Danielle laughed softly. Everything. Here is a test. Denise reached across the table and placed her hand over Daniel's hands. You do not owe Prairie Bend your sacrifice. And you do not owe the past your future. I know that too. Denise squeezed her hand. Then whatever you choose, make sure it is yours. Later, alone in her room, Danielle opened the folder again. She read every page carefully, the legal language precise and persuasive. The offer did not threaten her. It respected her. That made it dangerous. Danielle closed the folder and pressed her palms against it, feeling the weight of choice settled in her chest. She could leave with dignity, or she could stay and fight. Both would cost her something. Outside, Prairie Bend hummed quietly, waiting. And somewhere not far away, Reggie Brooks waited too, not pushing, not persuading, just waiting. Danielle closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, not for clarity, but for courage. Because the offer was not asking whether she loved the land. It was asking what she was willing to give up to keep it. Danielle Porter woke before dawn with the offer still resting heavy in her chest. Not the numbers, not the promises, the choice. She lay still, listening to the house breathe around her. Prairie Bend was quiet at this hour, honest in a way it rarely was once people woke and began deciding things for one another. She rose, dressed simply, and stepped outside. The sky was pale, the horizon just beginning to warm. Danielle drove without thinking, muscle memory guiding her down the familiar road until the land opened up before her again. Parcel 17. Waited. She walked the fence line slowly, dew soaking the hem of her jeans. He cool enough to clear her thoughts. Her grandmother's voice rose in memory, not loud, not sentimental. Stand where you mean to stand. Danielle stopped near the center of the field and let herself feel it all. The fear, the exhaustion, the temptation to take the clean exit offered so neatly. She could leave Prairie Bend again. She could leave with money, with leverage, with her dignity intact. But she would leave the ground behind. Danielle closed her eyes and understood something fully for the first time since returning. The land was not keeping her here. She was choosing it. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Reggie. I am headed to the feed store. You okay? Danielle typed with steady hands. Danielle, I have made a decision. The reply came quickly. Reggie, do you want me with you? She smiled faintly. Danielle, I want you nearby. That would be enough. By mid-morning, Danielle sat across from Mr. Lowe again. The offer folder opened between them. Are you sure? He asked. Yes, Danielle replied. I am declining. Mr. Lowe nodded slowly. Then we move forward. What does that look like? She asked. Documentation, enforcement, visibility, he said. And resistance, Danielle exhaled. I expected that. Mr. Lowe studied her. Your grandmother expected it too. Something loosened in Danielle's chest at that. Outside, Reggie waited near the truck, his posture relaxed but alert. When Danielle stepped out, he searched her face before asking anything. I said no, she told him. He nodded once. Okay, no celebration, no relief masquerading as triumph, just understanding. They are going to escalate, he said. Yes, I know. And they will try to isolate you. Danielle met his gaze. Then I will not stand alone. That earned a small smile. The response from Prairie Bend was immediate, not loud, not angry, strategic. Emails went unanswered. Permits stalled. The city clerk requested additional documentation, already submitted twice. Church conversations turned careful. Pressure shifted from persuasion to inconvenience. Danielle felt it in her shoulders by the end of the day. That evening, she and Reggie stood near the edge of the land as the sun lowered itself behind the trees. They are testing your patience now, Reggie said. They will run out before I do, Danielle replied, though she was not entirely sure. Reggie glanced at her. You do not have to be strong all the time. Danielle looked at him, surprised by the gentleness of it. I do not know how to do this any other way. He considered that. We will learn. The word we settled between them. Quiet, deliberate. Danielle did not correct him. As dusk deepened, she turned toward him. If this costs you something. Reggie shook his head. I am already here. That was his way of choosing. Danielle swallowed, emotion tightening her throat. Thank you. For staying? He asked. For not asking me to be smaller, she said. Reggie met her gaze, steady and open. You were never meant to be. They stood there, the land stretching wide around them, no longer just inheritance or battleground, a declaration. Danielle felt the fear shift into something steadier. Resolve. Prairie Bend had made its move. So had she. And from this moment on, there would be no quiet retreat, only ground chosen and held. Prairie Bend did not respond to Danielle Porter's decision with anger. It responded with memory. By the next morning, the town had quietly begun placing her back where it believed she belonged. The first sign came with the phone call. Danielle stood at the kitchen counter reviewing documents Mr. Lowe had emailed late the night before when her phone lit up with a familiar number. Danielle, baby, Mrs. Caldwell said warmly. I heard you are still settling in. Danielle closed her eyes briefly. That is right. Well, we are planning the Founders' Day committee, and it just would not feel right without a porter at the table. Your grandmother always chaired. Danielle understood immediately. Visibility without authority, honor without power. I appreciate the thought, Danielle said carefully, but I am not available for that. There was a pause on the line. Oh, Mrs. Caldwell replied. Well, we just thought. I know, Danielle said gently. But I am focused elsewhere. The call ended politely. The pressure did not. By midday, Danielle had declined 3 invitations to check-ins and one suggestion that she let the men handle the legal side. When she finally stepped outside for air, Reggie was already leaning against his truck, arms crossed, eyes scanning the street, like he was reading a language most people missed. "They are busy today," he said. "They are repositioning," Danielle replied. Reggie nodded. "That happens when you stop fitting the role." Danielle watched a familiar face across the street turn away when she noticed Danielle looking back. "I did not realize how much of this was choreography," Danielle said. Reggie smiled faintly. "Prairie Bend loves a script." They walked together toward the coffee shop, the rhythm of their steps easy but alert. Inside, conversation dipped and rose around them. Danielle ordered coffee. Reggie took his usual seat near the window. A man approached the table, older, well-dressed, polite in a way that felt rehearsed. "Miss Porter," he said. "Mind if I sit?" Danielle gestured to the chair. "Go ahead." He introduced himself as Harold Jenkins, a local business owner with deep roots. "I wanted to commend you," he said. "Standing your ground takes courage." Danielle waited. He leaned forward. "But courage can become stubbornness if you are not careful." There it was. "I do not confuse the two," Danielle replied. Harold smiled, undeterred. "Your grandmother understood compromise. She understood timing," Danielle said calmly, "and leverage." Reggie did not speak, but Danielle felt his attention sharpen. Harold shifted. "Prairie Bend has a way of moving forward, whether individuals cooperate or not." Danielle met his gaze. "And I have a way of insisting on being part of that movement." The man stood shortly after, offering a tight smile before walking away. Reggie exhaled. That was a warning. Danielle nodded. And a confirmation. That afternoon, Danielle sat with Mr. Lowe again, this time in his smaller office, the blinds half drawn. "They are testing you socially now," he said. "Next comes procedure." "Meaning?" "Delays, requests, technicalities." Danielle leaned back. "I am prepared." Mr. Lowe studied her. "Your grandmother did not lead by force. She led by refusing to be rushed." Danielle smiled slightly. "I am learning that." He slid a document across the desk. "We file this tomorrow." Danielle read it carefully. A boundary made official. "Do it," she said. The evening brought quiet again. Danielle and Reggie stood near the land. As the sun dipped low, the sky streaked with orange and gold. "They are trying to fold you back into the familiar," Reggie said. "They will not," Danielle replied. Reggie turned to her. "You are different than when you left." "So are you." He smiled. "I had to be." They stood in companionable silence for a moment. "Reggie," Danielle said, "if this becomes heavier." "It will," he said. She nodded. "Then I need you honest, even when it is uncomfortable." Reggie met her gaze. "That is the only way I know how to be." Danielle felt the weight of leadership settle more fully on her shoulders, not as burden, but as shape. Prairie Bend would keep trying to tell her who she was. But she had stopped listening, and tomorrow, when the paperwork was filed and the lines were drawn, the town would have to adjust to a new truth. Danielle Porter was no longer returning. She was staying, on her own terms.